Hi there, I'm Nancy Nash with Starfish Strength, and I'm passionate about making food that is both delicious and nutritious. Today, I want to share a recipe with you for a healthier jambalaya made with riced cauliflower loaded with fiber, flavor, and protein. So we're gonna get started by combining our spices in a small bowl. So I'm gonna need 1 teaspoon of cayenne pepper, 2 teaspoons of smoked paprika, 1 teaspoon of freshly cracked black pepper, 1 tablespoon of dried thyme, 1 tablespoon of dried oregano, 1 tablespoon of dried basil, 1 tablespoon of garlic powder, and 1 tablespoon of onion powder. Setting my spices to the side, I'm going to wash and dry my peppers and my celery. So I'm actually going to slice the end off my celery before I wash it so that I can really get in there and make sure that I get out any dirt that might be between the stalks. And then I'm going to select my best 5 stalks. I'm going to slice them down the middle, and then I'm going to cut them into approximately 1/4-inch pieces. Cutting up my onion, I'm going to slice off the ends and then peel off that first layer and discard that. Slice my onion in half and then turn it on its side, slice it so it's about 1/4, maybe 1/2-inch slices, and then turn it again and try to cut it into about 1/4-inch pieces. You can always run a knife through it again if you need to. I'm going to cut the tops off of my peppers, pop the stems out, and pull out as much as I can of the seeds. Cut my pepper in half and slice it into 1/2-inch strips, and then try to cut it, into 1/2-inch pieces or so. They could be a little bit smaller. Personally, I prefer to have my onion a little bit smaller and my celery a little bit smaller, but I don't mind the large pieces of the pepper. Remember, all of these vegetables are going to cook for a while, so they are going to soften. This flavor is all going to meld together. You don't have to cut perfectly for this to taste delicious. So once you're satisfied with how everything is cut, go ahead and set your onion, celery, and peppers aside in a bowl. And then I'm going to use about 12 ounces of chicken andouille sausage. If you can't find chicken andouille, you could still use regular andouille, and this recipe is going to be relatively healthier. Just keep in mind it's going to add a little more calorie and fat content. But I really thought these Belinsky sausages tasted amazing in this. I'm going to cut each of my sausages in half, and then I'm going to slice them into 1/4-inch pieces. So go ahead and set your sausages aside, and you're going to want a pretty large pan for this. If you have a Dutch oven, that would work. If you have a really large cast iron skillet, that would work. My skillet is about 18 inches and about 4 inches high, and you do want to make sure that has some depth to it because initially these vegetables are going to have a lot of size before everything reduces. So once you've selected your pan, we're going to place it on the stove, spray it with non-stick cooking spray, and then I'm going to turn the heat on medium-high. When you're seeing that a couple droplets of water dance across, we're going to add our sausages. I'm going to cook these for about 10 minutes or so until they're starting to kind of brown on all sides. So you do want to stir them fairly frequently, maybe every 2 to 3 minutes. And then once you're starting to see that golden brown color, we're going to shut the heat off and we're going to actually set the sausages to the side. So I'm going to turn my pan back on medium-high heat. I'm going to add in my celery, peppers, and onions. I am going to cover initially because I really want these vegetables to start sweating. I'm going to wind up cooking these for about 10 minutes, stirring them every 3 minutes or so. And we're just kind of waiting for that initial bit of liquid to release, that initial bit of bitterness to come off the onion. They are going to release some liquid, so you might need to play with the temperature a little bit throughout this cooking process. So releasing a little liquid is good, but we don't really want a pool of liquid at the bottom because we're going to be adding liquid later on. So essentially the vegetables are going to look a little brighter in color and they're going to look a little bit softer. So next I'm going to add in my cauliflower. So I'm using pre-riced cauliflower. You could obviously do this processing on your own. You could get a head of cauliflower, clean it out, and do that in your food processor. You could also buy riced cauliflower that's frozen. I've done that before. Just keep in mind, it's probably going to release a little more liquid, and you're going to have to break down that initial frozen stage, but it's not going to work too differently. I think frozen cauliflower is a great way to go too. On top of my cauliflower, I'm going to add my spice mixture, and then I'm going to slowly start stirring this in because I've got, cold ingredients and warm warm ingredients. I want to make sure everything is just really starting to combine well. And you're going to start seeing that the cauliflower gets kind of coated with the spices and get a feel for what the final product is going to look like. So we're going to cook this for about 10 minutes or so, and I'm going to stir it every 3 to 4 minutes, just so we're really seeing that the cauliflower is kind of evenly starting to cook and evenly starting to take on the flavors of the herbs and spices we added. So now we're ready to add our crushed tomatoes, our tomato paste, we're going to add our bone broth, and we're going to add our frozen okra. Now, frozen okra, like the frozen cauliflower, is going to take a little bit of patience. It might be in a big clump like mine is. So just kind of gently start stirring everything, and eventually you'll kind of see, that it works around the pan. When you feel like it's fairly well combined, we're also going to add our sausage back in. And we're going to cook this for about 10 minutes total. So if you've been stirring for about 3 minutes, you can take that into account. You'll probably want to stir it 1 or 2 more times. So now we're ready to add our shrimp. So I'm going to add my shrimp to the top, and I'm going to try to just put them in an even layer, so we're really kind of cooking them from the bottom. I want to be able to pull them out when they're done. So I don't really want to stir them into this. I'm using the easy peel shrimp for this. So they've already been deveined and deheaded. You could obviously use whole shrimp for this, depending on how much work you're willing to do taking your shrimp apart after the fact. But I will just kind of come back and gently turn them. I'm using frozen shrimp, so this took about 20 minutes. If you're using fresh shrimp, this might take maybe 10 minutes. And then the shrimp are going to be releasing some liquid as well. So, it may make sense to cover them initially, and then when you come back, as they're finishing, they're starting to turn pink. Some of them are already done. You may want to actually leave it uncovered. And in that last 5 minutes of the shrimp cooking, I'm usually pretty attentive. I usually just pull them aside into a separate bowl as they're finishing, because no one really likes overcooked seafood. And you'll know your shrimp are done when they're completely pink. You can turn them to the side. You don't see, that white score line down the center. So once they're done, pull them off, let them be done cooking. Trust me, that shrimpy flavor has really already set up in this jambalaya, so it's gonna taste really, really good. So once you pull the last of the shrimp out of your jambalaya, go ahead and turn off the heat. And then we're going to set our jambalaya aside and let it cool. I would say for about 15 to 20 minutes before serving, just so it's not red hot. So I actually like to divide this out into portions right after I cook it. We're probably going to use it all this week, but if you did want to do some meal prep and think ahead, the only thing that's not going to freeze well is the shrimp. So what I would do, you could make this without the shrimp, and then when you're ready to heat up that portion, you just want to heat it in a pan with the shrimp that you want that day. But if you're just storing it in the fridge, it should store great for you for up to 5 days. So let's go ahead and give this a taste. I immediately get that spice blend that comes through, but you also kind of get this sweet hit from the shrimp. I'm a big seafood fan, so this is such a good combination for me of that umami flavor from the spice blend, that kind of earthy flavor from the okra. I love that the okra and the peppers still have a little bit of their texture. I actually really like the diced tomatoes in this. I feel like it gives it a little more texture. It's such a fun kind of festival of texture and flavor. And working with riced cauliflower, it does definitely taste different from rice, but it really does take on those flavors in a similar fashion. So if you do give this recipe a try, I would love to know if you made any modifications. Please let me know how you like it. Thanks so much for making time to cook with me today. I hope you feel set up with a new recipe to satisfy your cravings and share with your friends and family. If you're looking for more healthy recipes, workouts, exercise tips, and other healthy lifestyle inspiration, please check out the rest of my YouTube channel. And if you need some one-on-one support putting together your exercise program and nutrition plan, please reach out to me in the link in the description. In the meantime, I look forward to continuing this journey with you, and I'll see you in the next video. Yes? Okay. Time to wine with our bone. Would you like some sausage? This is what I have for you. I rinsed off. You're hoping that's not too spicy. Not too spicy? Yay! Click. Good boy. Good job. So, yes. Luna loves it. All right. 3 thumbs up.